The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome back to Autism Live and to this parent-to-parent talk today when we're going to be talking about my favorite top 10 tips for holiday success, because it's not enough to just survive, right? I want you to survive and thrive. So we're going to be talking about that today. Thrilled to be back. I've been a little under the weather, and so it feels good to be upright and in front of all of you. And I'm so excited about the shows that we have coming up for the month of December, you guys. It's really, really exciting. We're going to be doing the show today. Then we have Ask Dr. Doreen tomorrow. On Wednesday, we have Christina Adams, who's going to be joining us again. It's been like a year since she's been with us. She is the author of A Real Boy, which was the book that changed everything for me and for my family about her experience of early intensive behavioral intervention with her son, which happened to be at CARD, and a CARD parent. It was actually Logan Shepard's parents that gave that book to me and said, you got to be at CARD, and it started a whole path for us. And that's how I got to meet Dr. Doreen, to be honest. And but then in subsequent years, Christina Adams went on to write the book Camel Crazy. And in the best possible way, she is camel crazy, because she began to look at camel milk to help her son and found that it was really healing and restorative. And so now she's toured all over the world, met with all kinds of people, has published papers in scientific journals about camel milk for healing all kinds of health considerations, including to be helpful with treating some of the symptoms of autism. And I know that when she's on, you guys all go absolutely nuts for her because she's amazing. So she's going to be here on Wednesday, I think virtually with me, and she sent us some amazing pictures of her travels around the world. So that's wonderful. Then on Monday, we are welcoming Lori Bowersack. Lori, if I'm saying it wrong, you have to tell me. But she's going to be here talking about her new line of clothing that is, autism affirmative clothing that is super cute, really wonderful, and very soft, and stuff that you guys are going to want. And I'm really proud of her that she is taking the reins and she's making it happen. So she's going to be here to talk with us about that. I don't remember who is on that. I know that we're having Dr. Doreen that following Tuesday. I don't remember who's on the Wednesday, but it's somebody fabulous. And then the following Monday, we're only going to be doing 2 shows that week because they're the last 2 shows of the year. And did I save the big stuff for you? I most certainly did. So on the Monday, we're welcoming back Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. He's going to be here with us live in the studio. Just stop. I can't even. And then we'll do the final show of the year, Ask Dr. Doreen, on that. I believe that's the 19th, the morning of the 19th. And Dr. Grant Bichet will be here. And by the way, on that day, on the last show of the year, I always give her a gift. And I always like for one of the gifts to be something that's kind of from all of us. That, because, when you're working as hard as she does and doing as many things as she does, I'll tell you that her love language is when somebody tells her, this helped me. So if you have ever watched this show or watched Ask Dr. Doreen and she has done or said something that was helpful, would you do me a favor? I have one of those crazy surprise boxes that you open it up and boxes fly everywhere with notes, and it has room for 20 notes from people that are notes to Dr. Doreen about how she's made a difference in their life. So if you want to be one of the 20 notes, please write to me, s.penrod@autism-live.com. Jot a little note. I'll put it on some special paper, and it will be one of the notes that flies out, but then that will be the thing that she will want to collect and keep because that's so meaningful to her. So, and then we're going to end the show for the year. But listen, we've got big plans for next year. And I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. It's been an interesting year. Let's say that. Hello, so glad you're here. Did you hear what I just was saying about notes to Dr. Granpeche? If you want to write one in, send it to me, s.penrod@autism-live.com. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's Shannon at autism-live.com. So erase what I said before. It's Shannon, SHANNON, at autism-live.com. All right, so thrilled that I'm sending you back hearts to you. All right, we're live right now on Facebook, on YouTube, and Twitter, and we hope that you'll join us on any of those sites. You can be writing in just like did, and write any question that you have, although we're going to be talking about things you can do. I know that a couple of months ago, we did one of these about how to prepare for the holidays, which was really about, what do you have in place? And it was about helping to get ready for Halloween, but we're in the thick of it now. And so, and many of you have been writing in saying, I don't know what to do about this and I don't know what to do about that. So we're going to go through this really quickly once, and then I'll go through and give you lots of ideas about how you might do the different things, because each one of these things is huge in that you can do it lots of different ways depending on the age of the person that you're, because it might be yourself or it could be one of your kids, it could be an adult that you're wanting to help. We should all survive and thrive, right? So we're going to go through it quick for those of you who are in a hurry, and then we'll go back, all right? I feel like there was something else I was going to say. Can't remember what it was. But don't forget that you can be watching this show later. If you're not watching live, you can be watching us on YouTube. We have 13 years worth of YouTube videos that you can search by topic, right? Or you can be listening in podcasts. We're available wherever you get your podcasts for free. That's sort of our criteria, is we want you to be able to get this information for free. That's our whole mission at Autism Network, is to provide information and inspiration. If you are thinking of ways that you could be getting this information and you're not seeing us on that platform, please let us know. Hey, I'm saying hello to Parker. Will there be tips on Santa visits? Just wondering if I should send this to my Santa buddies or not. That's a whole other thing, Parker. Pro Santa need these themselves. I have, because I went and did some trainings at Disneyland for Disneyland Santas. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I just did. So I have a whole sheet for that, Parker. Let me see if I can find it, because I've changed computers, and send that to you. Because there's very specific for Santas. But if we have time, I'll get to that, for what the Santas need to do. But we will talk about things, how it helps you if you're taking the kiddo to see Santa. Laurie, hey, did you just hear me say your name, and did I slaughter it? Because I was mentioning that you're going to be on 1 week from today. Did you? Because is it Bauer Socks? Am I saying it right? And good morning, good Monday morning. Okay, let me know if I'm totally slaughtering your name. And put in the chat what the name of the clothing company is, please, and the name, or the, put in the chat, Laurie, the, oh, I said it right. Okay, good. But put in the website so that people can be going and shopping and looking. I went and looked the other day. It's absolutely beautiful, the stuff that you're doing. Really gorgeous, gorgeous stuff, and wonderful. Okay, so you guys, really quickly, top 10 tips for holiday success, survive and thrive, and I will go back and elucidate on all, elaborate was the word I wanted, elucidate maybe two also. Okay, so number 1, pick one activity for each family member that will make them happy. And I'm talking about for this whole next month. Like, think about one thing. I'll talk more about this in a second. Number 2, make a visual schedule with only one holiday activity per day. And I'll tell you why that's important. Number 3, keep the sleep schedule on track as much as possible, because we're going to have a lot of sensory stuff. We don't want to be overwhelmed and underslept. Bad combo. Number 4, Don't cancel support. In fact, I want you to ask for more, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. Number 5, take support to family and community events. That's one of the ways that you want to be using the support. It'll make it better, I promise you. Number 6, mitigate sensory overload. We got a girl with sunglasses and a hoodie and earphones. We'll talk about all that in a second. Number 7, make a new holiday tradition around your family that's specific to your family. Number 8, minimize sweets and artificial colors and flavors, and I'll tell you why that is. Number 9, schedule downtime. But this has a big asterisk. Stay tuned to hear why. And number 10, teach giving and gratitude. All right, I don't think I put an 11 in there. Fabulous. Laurie, thank you for putting it in there. AutismAffirmationClothing.com. Wonderful. You guys need to go and check it out. And Laurie will be here with us a week from today to talk about that. But now let's go back to the beginning of this so we can talk about each thing. Okay, if I ask you right now to sit and think about for a second, what makes you feel like holiday? You know that I love me some Hallmark Christmas movies, and depending on which channel you're watching, there are some Hallmark movies that, not the ones that play on the Mystery channel, the Hallmark Mystery channel, but the other ones that they have kind of a checklist that you need to have hot cocoa, you need to make cookies, there needs to be a snowball fight, you need to go ice skating at some point, right? There are all these activities that you must do in order to make it feel like the movie. That's not a mistake, and people go, it's so formulaic. Yes, that's what I like about it. But the reason why is because everybody has things that make it feel like the holidays to them. And, you might be celebrating Hanukkah and Christmas. You might, there are so many holidays, so I don't mean to make it Christmas specific, but there are things that make it feel like that holiday, like even Halloween. There's something about Halloween. I got to be honest, I don't smell candy and chocolate very often because I can't have it and we don't keep it in the house. But when I take and pour the bag of candy into the big bowl, for Halloween, there is that waft of smell, and it feels like Halloween. The giving out of the candy, and I always have pencils and things like that, and the smell of it makes it feel like Halloween to me, even more than putting on the costume. So I think it's worthwhile to ask yourself, what is it that makes it feel like the holidays to me? Start with yourself. And think about, is that, for me, it's the tree is decorated and we're watching a movie together as a family. Then it really feels like the holiday to me. So for me, it's important that I schedule that, that I find a time and that I say to the other people in my family, it's really important to me that at some point we sit and watch a movie together. And usually there's like a fun bevy during that. Parker says, what about the food aversions with the holiday food? Yeah, I mean, sometimes, think about it this way, Parker. My dad, for instance, if it's Thanksgiving and Christmas, my dad always wanted my mother to make this thing that was called date pudding. And it was like this really heavy spice cake with a layer of date paste on the top. Ooh. I like the taste of dates, but it was too much. It was too sugary, even for me when I was a kid. It was like, right? But here's the great thing about when you identify what one person's thing is, and it might be that somebody in your family has something that holiday time that they just love, like ground cranberries and oranges, right? And you go, not my thing, but it's their thing. But if you understand that that's what is making it feel like holiday to them, then you can go, I'm so glad that you have that. And maybe you take one little piece of it, but that's it. But when you set this up that we're going to do something for everybody, then everybody gets to pick what their favorite thing is in the family, and you pick a night where it's their thing. So if one person is like, I like to go shopping for Christmas trees, then everybody agrees that one night it's that person's thing and we're going to go shopping for Christmas trees. This way you make sure that you hit everybody's thing and you're learning cooperation, that today it's about you, but another day it's not going to be about you, right? And that's very holiday. And you get those things in. Sometimes what happens is we're on the treadmill to the holiday and we're just bombarded. And for moms, a lot of times we feel like, I didn't make this happen. I didn't make this magic happen, right? It can get away from you. So if you pick like, what is the one thing, and I make a calendar and go, this is December. What do we want to accomplish in the month of December? And I want it to feel like holiday. So then I say to my husband, what's the one holiday thing that you want to do? And for me, it's easy because then I just have my son, what's the one holiday thing for you? And those are because there's just the three of us, those are the three things then that I get to prioritize. Everything else, there's the potential to edit and go, I don't want to do that. And maybe I decide, I do want to go ice skating with friends, but then it's just extra. But if you're catering to everybody the one thing that they need for it to feel like holiday, you'll get through the month and it'll feel like it was a holiday. You know how sometimes suddenly it's Christmas and you're like, it didn't feel like Christmas, right? This is a way to ensure it also makes that person feel very special. It was my husband's birthday the other day, and he has been asking us for months to watch this movie. That I looked at the picture of it and I was like, I'm not gonna like this movie. So we didn't watch it. And then it was his birthday. And we said, what do you want to do on the night of your birthday? He said, I'd really like to order in and I'd just like to stay home. And I'd like for you guys to watch this movie with me. I've really been wanting to watch it, but I want to watch it with you guys. Sure, it's your birthday. Of course we're going to do that. We sat and watched it and it was wonderful. I loved this movie with a ferocity that I didn't know that I could. So it was a gift to me too. So sometimes when you're doing somebody else's thing, you go, I really enjoy this. Sometimes you don't, and you learn, I show up for this other person in my family. And I think it's important that we start to teach that to our individuals who are on the autism spectrum. It's not about you today, but it will be about you on this day. And we don't let other people trounce on your day, so you're not going to trounce on their day. We get through it, and if we need to take a break, right, it doesn't spoil it for the one person. Okay, so that's my thoughts about that. Parker says, I can't stand the smell of sauerkraut at all, but my grandma was a kid at the Depression and implemented that New Year's tradition with my mom in my house. The Autism Journey with Elijah says, fruitcake is not my thing, but my mother loves it. And it's not most people's thing. I got to say, my mother loved it too. But we can say, I'm so excited that you have that thing, that you're having that thing. And Parker, I'm sure that there's some kind of a nose plug thing that you could do and say, I'm so glad you're having the sauerkraut, Mom. I just can't handle it. It's that vinegar smell, right? My mom used to, she would can pickles. She would make her own pickles. And I was telling somebody the other day that the whole month of August and part of September, she would turn on the air conditioning in her house and boil vinegar every day because she was making a different kind of pickles. And my eyes would just burn out of my face. And so Lori doesn't like the smell of sauerkraut either. I love sauerkraut. But, the smell of it can be aversive. But we were doing this the other day. Did you know that when you're cutting onions, if you have a piece of bread in your mouth, it kind of shields your nose from things? So we just need to get you some sort of nose shield, Parker. I'm going to look that up and see if I can find something. Okay, number 2, making a visual schedule with only one holiday activity per day. I love that Autism Journey with Elijah says, Shannon, cucumber patches won't help that smell, LOL. Yeah, and the cucumbers themselves don't smell, but once you boil the vinegar, not the thing. Okay, so it's really important to make a visual schedule. Now, there's lots of different ways that you can do this. It can be on your phone. It can be on a shared calendar with your family. It can be an advent calendar, right? We love, my mom made a fabric advent calendar, and we put it up on the wall. And now, because my son is older, we put little things on the paper of things that we're going to do, like, we're going to go out to dinner or things like that. But you can put little gifts in there, or you can put notes in there, or you can take anything. I've seen people make a magnetic calendar out of a cookie sheet where they can move things around for the dates about what they're going to do. But here's the really important thing. If everybody is able to see it, you can do this with a whiteboard. You can take a piece of wrapping paper, and most wrapping paper, unless you get the really good stuff, is just white on the back. And you can take and put it on someplace and put the dates on, make a grid with Sharpies, and you say, here's what we're doing on this day. What that does is it gets everybody on the same page, and everybody goes, oh, what are we doing today? It's right there. I can see it. You can look forward to things. You can also dread things that are coming up, but you can get yourself emotionally ready. Right. Friday is Dad's Day. We're going to go do the thing that Dad wants to do that nobody else wants to do. Right. And so okay, it's coming, and I can prepare myself for it. If you've got kiddos that don't read, then you make pictures of it. Like this, picture of Santa. This is the day that we're going to go and sit on Santa's lap. But here's the critical thing. We don't do 5 holiday things in one day, because that is the quickest way for everybody to burn out and not want to do holidays anymore. Chris and I were talking this morning about, we love toys. We love toys. We are a little done with toys today because we have done so many toy videos. I hope you're checking out our toy guide. I hope you're seeing some of the reviews that I did of the toys. But we need a break from the toys for a couple of days because we did too much before Thanksgiving. You don't want that to happen with the people in your family. So one holiday activity a day. They even do this in the Hallmark movies. They say, what are we doing today? Oh, today we're going ice skating. Today we're just going to frost cookies, right? That's it, because you don't want to burn out of it. A little of it goes a long, long way, and it's all sensory stuff, right? Which, when there's a little bit of sensory, is good, but we don't want to get to sensory overload, right? So I love the idea. We had an expert come in many, many years ago on the show who writes for many magazines like Living and all those, and she said one thing a day, that this was her big tip for holiday breaks, right? That you just have one scheduled thing per day, and that's it. End of story. If you got 5 parties in one day, it's a recipe for disaster. So on the one hand, this is a scheduling tip, but on the other hand, it's an editing tip. That you cannot do it all, you cannot be all places and be happy. So you want to decide, do I want to be all places and be all things to all people, or do I want to be happy, and do I want my family to be happy? I hope you pick the be happy. Okay. Parker says, how about religious services? Where does that play into this? If that is on your list of things to do, then you schedule it on there, and that becomes your thing that you're doing on that day. And that is not the day. You don't say, okay, well, we're going to go to the religious service, and then we're going to come home and decorate the tree. I know it sounds good. It sounds like some Hallmark, Rockwell picture, but it never works out. What happens is you go to church, and everybody comes home, and they're hungry and they're tired, and then it's like, well, now we have to decorate the tree. And that's what I'm telling you to avoid. One thing per day. And if it's the religious services, then that's the thing that goes on the calendar, Parker, and we don't plan anything else. Obviously, you have other things you have to do that day, but you don't plan a holiday event. It's enough. It's enough. Sufficient onto the day, yes? Okay, number 3. We're going to keep the sleep schedule on track as much as possible. Now, stuff happens. And it might be that, they stay up late on Christmas Eve, or one night of Hanukkah, they're up later. But it's not a good plan. I think with a lot of things, like romanticizing candy, that's like candy is good, and can you ever get too much candy? Yes, you can. And if you're not sure about that, give a child a whole bunch of candy and then time the meltdown. So it's hard because it feels so fun and so freeing to just stay up as late as you want and sleep as late as you want, but there's a pay cut coming for this. People get short, and then when you have to get the schedule back on track in January, it's going to be a hot, hot mess. And people's tempers go out the window. It's the other reason why I don't love when we decide to have Thanksgiving dinner at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Who came up with this idea? It's a bad idea. I've been at so many Thanksgiving things where people, adults, not on the spectrum, had meltdowns because their blood sugar was so low. There was one year that we were at a friend's house, and they were having like 40 people over, and about 1 o'clock, an hour before the meal was scheduled to happen, the husband said, I don't feel good. I'm having chest pain. I don't feel good. And we had him lay down. Everybody was like, do we call the ambulance? Whatever. I said, when was the last time you ate? And he said, well, I had a piece of pumpkin pie for breakfast at around 7:30, but I'm waiting for dinner. And I was like, somebody go make him a very small turkey sandwich. Let's feed him first before we decide to call the ambulance. Because the chest pain that he was having was positional. Like we did all the, I don't want you to think that we ignored a potential heart attack, but it wasn't consistent with a heart attack. But what it was that his blood sugar had dropped so low, and when your blood sugar drops that low, you feel messed up. And so he'd had all the sugar from the pumpkin pie and he crashed, right? Small little, teeny tiny little slider turkey sandwich. And he was like, I can't even believe I feel like a new person. Blood sugar is not a thing to be messing around with, right? Sleep is not a thing to be messing around with. If you add blood sugar issues and sweets and sensory issues and not enough sleep, or the sleep's a little wonky, you're just asking for regression. You're just asking for meltdowns. And it won't just be the kiddo on the spectrum. Your ability to cope with your child's sensory stuff will go out the window because you have not had enough sleep. So it's not just the kiddos. We want everybody to get a good night's sleep, right? Okay, number 4, don't cancel support. I talk about this so much in the month of December. I know, as somebody who did an early intensive behavioral intervention with my son, that sometimes if we go back to number 1, which is figuring out what the holidays is, in my mind, originally it was, well, the holidays are, we're off and we have downtime and we can sit around and not have to do anything and get together with friends and we can do all this stuff, right? Except when you have a kiddo on the spectrum, sometimes it doesn't look like that at all. You show up to the holiday event with your kiddo and you walk in the front door and something happens and now they're all discombobulated and they're upset and they hit somebody or they want to leave or they lay down in the foyer and have a tantrum. Been there, done that, right? And you go, hey, this was my holiday. I wanted to have a good time and my child is miserable. I don't know what to do, and you're overwhelmed, right? And there's also this thing that we go, and I don't want to have therapy because the therapy would get in the way of us going to the holiday event, so we start canceling therapy. And you know what I say about that? I say that's canceling success. And that it's the exact opposite that you need to do to get into that, not only surviving, but thriving. So if you can take this whole conversation and put it on its head and say, all right, what I really want to do is go and be at a holiday event with friends, but I want my kiddo to have a good time and I want to have a good time and I don't want to be in fear that my kiddo is going to be in a sensory nightmare and have a meltdown or hit somebody. So can I have all of that? Yeah, you can. You can if you ask for more support. And in the next one, we're going to talk about taking a person with you. But if you're going to cancel your sessions, whatever it is, I know that sometimes at this time of year, school will say, oh, we're not going to do speech over the break. Well, put something else in its place. Find out if there's a sensory gym near you that has an OT and that you can do more OT over the break. Or please, I hope that you guys are doing good quality intensive ABA. And if you are, it's very possible that you or one of your behavior technicians have canceled in the last 6 months. Call your ABA center today. I'm begging you. You want to have the best holiday you've ever had? Call them today and say, I would like to schedule more sessions. I've got makeup hours, and you know what? They're use them or lose them hours. That when you get to the end of your authorization, any hours that you haven't used, let me just tell you, insurance company is going to be like, woohoo, we didn't have to pay for that, right? And you just watch that success go right out the window. So use it. Use it, use it, use it. Ask for more. Tell them right now about the break and ask them, say my child is going to be out of school on this day. How many of those hours can we use before we go back to school again? And then I'm going to tell you in the next slide how to use them to your advantage. You personally to your advantage. But don't cancel it. Do you know that it only takes like less than a week for a kiddo to be out of their sessions before we see regression? You want to lose ground over the holidays, or do you want to gain ground over the holidays? As a former school teacher, I always say, tortoise in the hare, right? Sometimes things move along at school and our kids are a little bit behind, right? But then all the rest of the kids go and they play video games for the next 2 weeks. Whereas our kiddos could be learning all kinds of things about how to better be able to cope with what's happening in the classroom so that they're set up for success. Don't do less, do more, and you can make it fun. So let's go on to number 5, where we talk exactly about this. Take support to family and community events. So you've got your calendar, yeah, because you did number 1 and number 2, right? Everybody said what it was that they wanted to do on our number 1 tip, and number 2, you put it on the calendar. And now, because of number 4, you've called your, wherever you're getting support and therapies, and you're asking for more. And now look at the calendar and go, oh, here's Aunt Betty's Hanukkah party on the 16th. Well, we really want to go to that, and I don't know how well that's going to go. Ask them on the phone, is there any way that we can get somebody to go with us to Aunt Betty's Hanukkah party? Look, not all centers will do this, but the good ones will. If they have somebody available on that day, they'll send them to Aunt Betty's, you give them the address, they show up. You don't have to tell everybody who they are. I didn't ever care because I was always willing to tell people, but I've had people who are like, oh, this is my cousin Jake. You've never met my cousin Jake? And that's the behavior technician. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules. Nobody's going to sue you, right? You can say, this is our nanny. You just want to tell the BT ahead of time because they're going to roll with whatever. They are not allowed to say who they are and who they work for. And it's always a little dicey for them when you're at parties. So I love telling them, here's what you're allowed to say, here's what you're not allowed to say. But I'll tell you what will happen. You take a behavior technician with you to Aunt Betty's, you're going to have a good time. Your child's going to have a good time. The people who are there are going to have better interaction with your child because first thing that happens, you come into the party and Aunt Betty goes, oh my gosh, he's here. And she goes to hug your child, but your child doesn't like hugs. And so the BT says, do you want to hug Aunt Betty, or would you like to tell Aunt Betty that you'll take a rain check? And so the child goes, Aunt Betty, I'd like a rain check, right? And then you're talking to Aunt Betty going, hey, he might hug you later on. We don't know. We're working on something. And she goes, okay. And she gets over it. But your child, because if Aunt Betty goes in for the hug and hugs the child that doesn't want to hug, now we're off to the races and this being a bad night, right? But then, the BT says, hey, do you want to go find the other kids and let's play? And they go with them to the room where they're playing with the other kids. And when the other kid steals their toy, they prompt your child and say, what do you want to say to them about that? Do you want to work with them and say, can we share, right? They'll prompt them through a whole bunch of other things. The other kids think they're cool and want to play with them. I've never had a BT that everybody's like, what are you doing here? I don't want to play with you. Never had that happen. You will learn, wow, my kid can have a good time at this party. We just have to put X, Y, and Z. The other thing is the BT who's focused on your kiddo will notice when the sensory things start to go and up through the roof, and they'll go, hey, shall we go, walk around outside and look at some of the plants that Aunt Betty has in the backyard? Or maybe we should go, let's go ask Aunt Betty if she wants us to lift some of the drink things so that they get that input, that physical input that helps them to be able to regulate themselves. I'm telling you, best thing ever. And this is not just a holiday thing. I used to take behavior technicians to birthday parties all the time. We had a slot on Saturday mornings that was just birthday parties. And everybody goes, oh, we never get invited to birthday parties. 2 things. If you have a birthday party and you invite all the kids, your kid will be invited to birthday parties. If your kid shows up and has a meltdown at the birthday party, they will stop being invited. But if you show up with a behavior technician, you will be invited every time because everybody loves the behavior technicians because the kids all have a good time and they end fights and they sort of mitigate and they tell them, hey, let's play this, whatever. You will be the most popular person. We were invited to birthday parties on a regular basis and we would take a BT with us. We just had a slot on Saturdays and it was like the birthday party slot. And I would give them the address and they would meet us there and we would all have a good time. Autism Journey with Elijah says, I will never cancel therapy. It took too long to get it. And if you cancel it, it's just for a couple of hours. The routine is hard to get on schedule again. Amen. With a child who absolutely needs a schedule, it's more of a burden. Keep the therapies in place. Absolutely. I'm going to hold you to that. And I don't know why. I know you said something the other day that you guys have not been successful starting it. And I really want to work with you on that because you've been waiting way too long. Parker says, how about holiday travel? You know, there are some autism centers that have centers in different places, and it's the rare thing that but I have seen people make this work, more than a couple of people, where they call their center and say, hey, we're traveling, we're going to Philadelphia. Do you have an office there? And can we get hours at the Philadelphia office? Like, there's a whole lot of things that have to be, you know, it takes time and it doesn't always work, but, you know, it's an amazing thing. I also have friends who didn't have that ability to do that, but called ahead and found, in one case, somebody who found an OT who was not going to be working at school, who could be with her child and helping, and it made that vacation so memorable. So, you know, ask around and see if there's more support where you're going. Autism Journey with Elijah says, Eli doesn't sleep well as it is, and holidays worry me. His sleep study spotted out apnea. I have apnea too, and there are so many different things for apnea now. You know, I use a CPAP, but I'm considering changing to one of the different mouth guard things. But all the more reason, can I just tell you, as somebody who has sleep apnea, if I don't get good sleep with my thing where I'm getting oxygen, you know, it's why sleep is so important. I would ask you to look at like what helps him to sleep. Like, if you get up on the bed with him and read him to sleep, will he go to sleep and sleep better? And if he does, for right now, do that. Right? But there are all kinds of machines that make white noise, or make there's the one that makes the breathing circle on their ceiling. So it projects a circle, and the circle grows and gets smaller, and what they're supposed to do is breathe in time with the circle, puts them to sleep in under 5 minutes. So things to look at. Okay, Parker says, this reminds me of my childhood. My childhood babysitter was not a trained tech, but she went everywhere when ABA people were not available. There you go. Autism Journey with Elijah says, if you fly, there's an airline that works with mutism kiddos and parents. I'm not sure what airline, though. I'm sorry. We did, is it Alliant? We did a show. There are many airlines now that are very specifically working with individuals with autism. I believe that it's important to call ahead and tell them. I know that sometimes that doesn't work out because it depends on who you get, but if you've called ahead and told them, if it doesn't work out, they give you lots of things. So I think it's important. It doesn't, I don't want to say that it takes all the headaches away, but it does help you to potentially be more successful. Okay, so you say, yes, we pray and read a book, but does that help to put him to sleep? Because if it doesn't, then we want to look at one of those other things, like what is the ritual around what actually helps him to go to sleep? You know, if you put a TV on and I'm laying down and I'm warm, that's it. I have terrible insomnia, but if you put a TV on, it's curtains for me. Yeah, I think Parker says this was in 1999 to mid 2000s, and hopefully things are better. They are, but it's still a great idea if you have somebody that already knows the individual and is good support for them and is willing to go with you to travel over the holidays. I mean, that's still a good thing. I still think that that's a wonderful thing. So whatever you need, but having more support is really important, and having it be a part of your community and family events. Like, you know, you're going to your city's tree lighting, you know, ask if you can take a BT with you. The only thing that can happen is they can say no one's available. Okay, you're no worse off than you were 5 minutes before. But I guarantee you, If you try it at least once, and people go, well, but we're not going out, we're having game night. Have the BT come to game night. I don't know what to say to plead with you to do this, but I'll tell you what, you do it once and you'll be a believer. You'll be like, oh my gosh, my child and my husband had this interaction that they would never have had because there's so much chaos and other things, but there was another person who was just focused on that, right? You'll have a much, much better time. So don't cancel your support, ask for more, and do it strategically and ask them to come with you to the community and family events. I'm telling you, you'll be like, Shannon, this is the best thing ever. Okay, number 6, mitigate sensory overload. Okay, this means different things to different people. So you have to really stop and think about what is the sensory thing that is problematic for this individual and the event that we're going to. Like if you're going to a tree lighting, there's going to be a lot of people, right? And it might be people jostling and bumping in and whatever. There's going to be a certain amount of noise, and there's going to be lights that turn on at some point. There's probably sound, right? In the picture, for those of you who are listening in the podcast, we've got a young woman looking very stylish. She's wearing a hoodie with she's got her hood up. She's got headphones on over the hoodie. Sometimes people do it under, but she's got them over and she's got sunglasses on. So I'm sure you guys are well aware of the tools that are available to you now. They have weighted vests. They have vests that inflate, that help to put pressure, which can help with sensory. It's just like the dog's thunder shirts or compression shirt sometimes does the same thing. That pressure can help with sensory overload for some of our kids, not all, right? Some kids need the sunglasses because the visual is too much for them. Some kiddos need a hearing thing, and we have in the toy guide this year, there are a bunch of different kinds of ear, I don't know what, they're not called earbuds, but they are things that are specifically meant to help mitigate noise without cutting it off. You know, sometimes with the over the ear headphones, it means they're not going to hear anything. Like they're not going to hear you saying good job, you know? But these earbuds, and there's 3 or 4 of them that are on the market right now, they go into your ear and they allow for sound, but they deaden some of the peripheral sound. And the adults on the spectrum are just telling me it's a game changer, that it's absolutely amazing. But each one of them is a little bit different. The price point on them is around $30 to $40. So it's kind of hard to sort of try them all out. But the one that we put in the toy guide, the most adults said to us, this is like amazing, was Flare. They're Calms by Flare. So I don't know, check them out. But I think it's good. When we went this summer, my son and I went to tour, is it Meow Cat? Is that the name? I'm so bad. This amazing, it was Omega Mart in Las Vegas that is, I'm telling you, it's just crazy, crazy experience. And I don't even know what words to use to describe it, but you walk into what looks like a grocery store and everything in the grocery store is specifically a gag, and there's, you know, things playing everywhere and interactive things to do. But then there are 7 different portals in the grocery store. Like one of them, you open up the place to get a Coke, and it's a doorway into another world, and you enter this other world. It's just ginormous. There's a mystery if you have older kids that want to play out the mystery, but it's a sensory experience like no other. But it's a group of artists that are making these all over the world with different themes, and the one in Las Vegas is a grocery store. But the reason why we were there was because they're one of the first attractions of its kind that has passed a sensory autism credentialing, and all of their employees are credentialed in autism and being able to support people. And one of the things when you get there, if you tell them that you need some help sensory-wise, they have a bag of sensory stuff. And I thought, oh man, this would kind of be a great thing to take with you anywhere. And in the bag, there's like one of those pop things, there's headphones, there's like a silky thing to touch. They're just like, oh, there's a pair of sunglasses because there's parts of it that are very, very bright. So it's just the perfect bag because something in there is going to help each individual, and it doesn't say, oh, you must have a problem with sound, right? And so until you know what sounds you need to mitigate, or what senses you need to mitigate for yourself or for your kiddo, have a bag. Have a bag that's ready to go wherever you want to go. And then as you see, this is what helps with this circumstance, then maybe you don't have to bring the whole bag. Amanda's here with her blue hearts. I'm so glad. And the cooler was so neat. And then upstairs. So you went to, is it Meow? I always get it wrong. Is it Meow Kitty? I don't know what the name of it is, but it's Omega Mart. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I definitely think it's a great place to take your kiddos. It's a lot of fun. But no, is it Meow Wolf? No, what is it? I don't know what the name of it is. It's Omega Mart. Look it up. And they have them different places. So there might be one close to you, but it won't be the Omega Mart. It'll be something else. It's Meow something. I don't know what it is. Anyway, my son would be so disappointed in me. He's working on editing a piece for the show. I hope we're going to have it before the end of the year to show you. Anyway, you need to be able to mitigate the sensory overload. Sometimes it means you got to walk away. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's time to go take a walk around the block. Sometimes it's time to go, right? That's when you've waited too long. But what we find, a lot of us, is that as you see it start to escalate, if you can put the sunglasses on, that it takes it right back down to zero, right? Or you go for a walk, it brings it right back down to zero, and then you come back and still engage in whatever the fun thing was. But if you just let it go and go, well, they've got to manage it, you're going to end up with a meltdown on your hands because it's too much. The holidays are all about the sensory. So sensory overload is around every single corner. Let's take a second to talk about the Santa thing. So if it's on the schedule, because that's the thing that makes it feel like Santa, and you're going to go see Santa and they don't have a sensory-friendly Santa where you are, look to see if they do first. Because it's sensory-friendly things, they can take a little bit more time. It's not as much lights and music and flashing and all that stuff, right? If they have that, great. But if they don't, I encourage you to have somebody else stand in the line while you go do other calming things. And I encourage you to rehearse beforehand about what is going to happen and give your child choices. Do you want to sit on Santa's lap, or do you want to just stand next to Santa, right? But you also want to say to them, and we're going to take a picture, and then you're going to get a treat after you take the picture, right? But don't expect your kiddo to wait in line for 2 hours and then suddenly be thrust onto Santa's lap and that you're going to get a good picture. That is not going to happen. And that doesn't happen with most of the kids. I worked at Macy's, Herald Square in Santaland, and I can tell you, I was a professional elf putting kids on laps, and I've done a lot of Mrs. Claus work in the intervening years. Kids go, this is a sensory nightmare. And it doesn't matter whether they're on the spectrum or not. So for our kiddos that are on the spectrum who are willing to tell you this is a sensory nightmare with their voice and their hands and their feet, let's do them a solid favor and take as much of the sensory out of it as possible. I know some people will dress their kiddos a lot like this woman is dressed, in a hoodie, with a hat, with sunglasses, with earphones, and go, they'll be across the street at the food court, and dad's holding the place in the line, and dad texts and says, come now, right? The kiddo comes over, gets to see Santa for a minute, gets to go up to Santa and say hello. Don't just force them onto the lap or stand and say hello first, right? Then say, okay, now we're going to get the picture, and then you're going to get the treat, right? And boom, 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 and make sure you have the treat there to give them. And the treat doesn't need to be the candy cane that they give out. Have something else. Yes, since COVID, Parker points out that they have chairs next to Santa and even benches in front of Santa. We did a lot of that during COVID because there was what am I trying to say? You had to space yourself out. Eli does the sensory Santa. It's usually before the hours of the mall opens in Arizona. Good, 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 good. Parker says, that's the problem with Santa visits. A lot of these malls do the dimming of the lights and low music, but that's not enough with the patience issues, even with the sensory-friendly Santas. I agree. Meow Wolf, thank you. Why do I always think it's Meow Kitty? Social distancing. Thank you, Amanda, because my brain is not with us this morning. I'm flying solo. All right, moving on to number 7. Make a new holiday tradition around your family. The thing about holiday traditions is that they started somewhere, and the reason why it became a tradition is because the family liked it enough that they repeated it year after year. So there might be a family tradition that you really want to engage in that maybe you're feeling bummed because it's not something that your kiddo is interested in. I want to say to you, I'm sending you a hug, and don't give up. You know, for me, with my family, when I was a kiddo, it was all about the tree and decorating the tree, and it was a family sport, and we talked about the ornaments and the memories, and, you know, every time a new baby is born in the family, there are new ornaments that are bought that are just that baby's ornaments, and when they grow up and go off and get, you know, have their own apartment or their own house, their own family, they get their ornaments to start their first tree. And then when somebody passes away, those ornaments are split. So there's many ornaments on my tree that are from my great-grandmother and my grandmother and my mother and my dad, you know? And I want to talk about all those memories and pass those memories of those ornaments down to my son. And there were many years, like probably 12, 14, 15 years, where he could not have been less interested. And it was sad to me. I was like, oh, he's never going to care about that. And now, over the years, what I would do is that, and I still do this to some extent, that I put all the, you know, who cares about them ornaments on the tree, because neither my husband or my son are that particularly interested in putting 400 ornaments on a tree. And it really is that many. Because we usually have like 5 and 6 ornaments on a branch. And I have a big tree. It's my 2-bottle-of-wine tree that another autism mom was cleaning stuff out of her house, and she wanted to get rid of this big tree, and nobody else would take it. And I was like, I don't really have room for it. And she was like, I wish you would take it. I think you would love this tree. And I said, okay, what can I give you? And she said, just give me a bottle of wine. So I went and got her 2 bottles of wine, and I have my 2-bottle-of-wine tree. And it's big, and I can fit lots of ornaments on. So nobody else but me wants to put that many ornaments. So I put a bunch of them on, and then I keep like 20 out that my son knows we're going to have conversations about those. He knows that that's what's going to happen with those ornaments. And in the beginning, he didn't like that, but you know, we did just a little bit more every year. And now he's like, oh, is this the one that your mom got when, yes, he's learning those traditions. But in the meantime, I had to turn around and go, okay, what traditions does he want? What activity would he like? What works for our family the way it is right now? Like, for instance, there was one year for Halloween, there were no pumpkins. I don't know if there was a pumpkin blight or I just left it too long, but there were no pumpkins anywhere. So I bought a watermelon, and we carved the watermelon like a pumpkin, and he was like, this is so much better because you get to eat the watermelon. Now, you can't do that everywhere, but in LA, they have watermelons in October. So what would be a tradition for your family? What's a thing that you can do? And, you know, you can see what your child is into, or you can even ask your kids, what would you like to do? Like we talked about on that first day. Amanda says, we do the drive-through light show. It's the one thing we can all do together. The only time of the year we do popcorn, we go in our pajamas the night before Christmas. That sounds like heaven. And, you know, I'm sure that many, many years ago, that was not, you know, that there was a day that became your family tradition, and it's the thing you look forward to. So I love that, Amanda. I want to now go do that. Decide on what it's going to be. Just, you know, like we said with number 1, make sure that there's something for everybody so that everybody's holiday event gets to happen, and only one thing per day. Okay, moving on because we're running out of time. Number 8, minimize sweets and artificial colors and flavors. Oh, look at that. I just stole everybody's Christmas. Here's the thing. You can still have it, but just don't have tons of it, because we already know what happens when you do. And I will tell you, I think it's like, if I had to choose, if I could only have you do one thing and you could have sweets or artificial colors and flavors, I would tell you do the sweets without the artificial colors and flavors. Because we see that behavior change with the artificial colors and flavors is so clear. It's so clear that in Europe, they don't allow the same colors and flavors that we allow here in the United States. I don't mean to scare you, but it's the truth. And our kids are like the canaries in the coal mine, that they are affected by it. I think, I don't have a study to back that up with, but I've seen it anecdotally, that our kids seem to be very sensitive to the artificial colors and flavors. But all of us are. I've had conversations with kids that are nowhere on the spectrum that they're like, oh, I hate when I eat the red food coloring because then the monster inside of me comes out. Hello. So let's just, if you're like, sweets have to be a part of it, see if you can get them artificial color and artificial flavors. And then try not to just steep in the sweets. It'll end up throwing off the sleep, it'll throw off everything, and you will get a tantrum when they crash, right? Because there's that horrible feeling that adult was like, oh, what is this? I feel like I'm dying. Do we really want to do that to our kids? We know that if blood sugar is like this, it feels different than if blood sugar is up and down, up and down, up and down. So, make a decision, just like we told you for Halloween. It's like this much sugar is allowed every day, and then allow that, and then there's no more after that. Things will go better. I know, I'm just Scrooge McDuck here. Okay, number 9, schedule downtime. This is important. That while we're making that schedule, and we said only one holiday thing per day, but let's say that you go and do the holiday thing. Like, for instance, Amanda's going with her family and they go through the drive-through light show, and then I'm gonna guess you come home and everybody gets to veg a little bit. And vegging looks different for different people, right? Some of our kids, they need to come home and stim, to like let go of all the sensory that happened. And you know what? That's a time, as long as they're not hurting themselves, let them decompress from what you just went and did, right? For you, it might be sitting on the sofa and watching something on TV. And for another kiddo, it might be being on the iPad, right? You need to allow some of that. But here's the opposite side of that coin. If that's all you have going on, you're also going to see behavior then, because you get discombobulated. There's a time and a place for downtime, but if we schedule nothing but downtime, your kids will get restless. You gotta have, it's just like the colors on your plate, right? You gotta eat the rainbow, you gotta behave the rainbow. So you go and you do something that's sensory, holiday, wonderful, you come back, you gotta have the rest period, right? But in between all of that, make sure you're getting physical activity, make sure that there's something that's challenging your child's brain, make sure that you're engaging them and asking questions, but do schedule a part of the day where there's no demands on them. Don't make it the whole day, because that's addictive and they will just want more and more of that, and they will fuzz out and you will see regression. And when you try to pull them out of it, you will have meltdowns and tantrums. So a little bit goes a long way. Parker says downtime is hard to schedule when you're employed. It's so funny. We were having this conversation last night. I'm watching that show, The Gilded Age, on HBO, and right now the workers are striking, saying 8, that they want to work an 8-hour day, that they want to have 8 hours to rest, and then they want to have 8 hours to do whatever they want. And I turned to my husband and I said, oh, this is the beginning of how we got the 8-hour day. And I said, but if you stop and think about it, it's not all that accurate, right? Because we go to work for 8 hours, but, especially if you live in Los Angeles, it's going to take me 45 minutes to get there and 45 minutes to go home. So there's another hour and a half out of my do whatever you want time, poof, gone, right? I don't know, like some people get 8 hours of rest. I don't always get 8 hours of rest, but then you got laundry and grocery shopping and right? So it's hard when you're working, Parker, to get that downtime. But I'm gonna ask you to schedule it. That is what most of us do, is that we say, sometimes it's I gotta work all the way through the week, but on Saturday, I'm gonna have downtime, right? It's better if you can have a little bit of downtime every day where this is my time. And it's important to do that whether you're a parent or not, but if you're a parent, that's why we have respite workers and respite funding, so that you can have that downtime. People who don't have downtime get resentful. It just happens. So I want to know, Parker, if you can schedule it for yourself, and even talk to the people in your family and say, I'm going to schedule some downtime for me. I don't want it to conflict with something you have going on, but when I come home from work, I want to have this much time that's just, downtime for me. Talk to the people in your family and see if they can be in agreement with that. I bet they will. And number 10, our last one as we get close to the end of our time here, is to teach giving and gratitude. I think it's essential that you ask your child to do something that is for the benefit of other people during this holiday season. It could be that that they draw a picture and that you send that to a relative. I know families that put together little gift boxes for the military that are serving overseas. My family, what we did for over 10 years is we did the Sensitive Santa events, and we're not, this year would be our first year not doing that, and it's going to feel a little bit weird. We're giving back in other ways. But my son always had to come and work and be an elf at Sensitive Santa, and he was told, this is, you are so lucky and fortunate, and you have so much to be thankful for. This is about you giving back to other people. It is critical that for whatever holiday you observe, that you or someone takes your children and that they go and, it could be allowance money or whatever, or it could be a gift that they make, but they need to gift something to someone else. If we don't teach that, then we're only teaching half of the holiday. And I don't think we're teaching the right part of the holiday. Oh, you get gifts, right? And I think, for many of us, what ends up happening is we are more excited about the reaction. Like, I can't wait when we finally give Dr. Granpeesheh this box and it opens and flies everywhere. If you weren't at the top of the show, I'm asking for notes written to Dr. Granpeesheh about what she has meant in people's lives. I've got room for 20 of them in this gift box that's going to explode on the 19th. So write to me, Shannon at autism-live.com, if you want to be one of those notes. And you can sign it and everything, and I have to put them on these special papers and they'll fly around. I'm more excited about that on the 19th than I am about anything else for the holiday. There's a couple of presents under the tree that I can't wait for my husband and my son to see. But you know what I mean? That becomes the holiday for so many of us. And if we don't teach that to our kiddos, we're gypping them. And in the beginning, it's not going to resonate with them. Don't be afraid of that. And don't go and spend money that you don't have for that kind of thing. But there was one year that we had Jem sit down. He was in kindergarten, I think. And I had a bunch of beads that my mother had given me. And we made bracelets and necklaces for his teachers and his aides and everybody that worked on his team. And so I had a little tray where you can line up the beads before you thread them. And I would say, okay, now we're going to make a necklace for Sabrina. What colors do you want to use? And he would pick the beads to go in the tray. And it was huge because I remember we were making one for Sabrina and he said, oh, well, we should make this one black. And I said, why? Why are we making Sabrina's black? He said, it's her favorite color. And I said, how do you know that? He goes, she wears black all the time, Mom. And it was because they were trying to teach him perspective taking. And so they would talk about that with him all the time in his therapy sessions. And they would say, what color do you think Rebecca likes? And he would say, I don't know. And they would say, well, look at her. What colors is she wearing? And the Sabrina one he'd gotten all on his own. So he was picking the colors for the necklaces, and then he was excited when they would open it up. That's the beginning of teaching that. Okay. Last night I went to sleep at 4:15, back up at 6:30. I need this advice. Sometimes I can't stop when I'm doing a good thing. I'm the same way. We are sisters from another mother, but it messes you up. And I can tell you, because I'm older than you, it gets worse as you get older. So you got to prioritize the sleep for yourself. If nothing else, remind yourself that you're going to do that for Elijah, so that you're showing him. Sometimes I don't feel like I can sleep, but you got to figure out how to turn off that part of your brain that's going, and then you'll be better able to teach him how to do it. I know, I'm still working on it myself. It's hard, but it's worthwhile to work on. On Thanksgiving and Christmas, we go out and feed the homeless, yes. We also send out clothing and hygiene baggies. Eli loves it. We are also doing a blanket drive and warm clothes drive for organization in Illinois, looking forward to it. And I think, though, that's a wonderful thing to be teaching our kids. Oh, I knew it was your birthday month, so it's the 19th. On that last show of that, well, we'll make sure to say happy birthday to you. Parker says if we don't teach it now, we teach entitlement and disrespect in the future. I don't want my customers being entitled or disrespectful. Well, customers are a different thing, Parker, because customers, it is not our job to parent our customers. I'm sure you've heard the phrase before, the customer is always right. Most of the time. But so I would say for customer service, our job is not to teach them to respect us, right? Our job is to give them the service that they're paying for. But yes, I do agree with teaching kids young to be good people, and then their parents need them to teach them how to be a good customer. But when you're in a customer service driven business, Parker, sometimes you gotta like, close your mouth and be like, ooh, because people, I'm not saying be a punching bag, but sometimes people are rude. And if we're in customer service, we don't, unless it's physical, we kind of like go, ugh, okay, they're not being very nice, but we still serve them. Unless it's our company, and then we have the right to say no. But if you're working for somebody, you kind of have to put up with some of that. All right, I hope that some of these tips will help you to make it joyful and peaceful and full of light. And that's the reason why we had the candles, because the one thing that all of the holidays at this time of year have in common, they're all different, right? But the thing that they all have in common is that they're all about light. And so I hope that you will find time during this season to be filled with light. I just love and respect you all. And I'm so excited that we're going to be here live with Dr. Doreen tomorrow. If you have a question that you want to add, I've got some questions already, but if you have a question, you can email me right now, Shannon at autism-live.com. And I would love, for those of you who are watching now or watching later, send me a note that you would like for Dr. Doreen to have in her Christmas box. I've said on the 19th, it's one of those boxes that you open it up and all these things fly out, and normally they do it with money, but I know that that's not going to be exciting for her. What would be more exciting would be notes from you guys about how she has helped you. That would mean the world to her and to me. So send those to me, Shannon at autism-live.com. I won't be able to say that tomorrow because she'll be sitting there. So I'm saying that to you now. And don't forget, we're doing live shows this Wednesday with Christina Adams, and then the next weekend, I can't remember who it is. And this is our last parent-to-parent of the year, this one right here, because next week we are going to have Lori Bowersox with us, and she's going to be talking about her new clothing line. So that's going to be really fun, plus a bunch of other stuff that she's got going on. And then on the 18th, we're having Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. If you have not watched any of the old shows with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, I just love him to pieces. So he used to be a regular on the show, and now he teaches at USC, so he's not available most of the time. But USC will be done by then, so he's going to be here, and you guys can be sending in questions for him. Amanda, please send me a note. Yes. Parker says, I'm going to ask the Santa question via email to Dr. Doreen. I think her expert advice would help all of us. I absolutely agree. Yay! Amanda says, love him and miss him. We always do. Exciting news coming from Autism Journey with Elijah. So make sure that you're here a week from today to hear their exciting news that's coming. All right, you guys. Much love, sending you hugs. Si se puede, right? We hold hands, we get there together. Happy holidays. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.